How's it going, Orange County? It is Tuesday, which means it's time for some more interesting soccer talk from yours truly, Dylan. And if Alan gets a chance to join us here in a few moments, Alan as well. And we've got a guest joining us here tonight, not just the cricket that decided to jump in right when we got ready to start this thing. This is the Orange and Black Soccer Cast.
Towards the near post, the flick, and it's in. Darwin Jones with the response for Orange County. And it is a massive one. Off the goal, dominant in the last 10. Forrester in the middle now, gets around a few defenders. Forrester with the outside right foot. What a strike by Harry Forrester. It's the opening goal for Orange County. Heads it down, back post, opportunity and a goal. A beautiful goal by Orange County.
This is the Orange and Black Soccer Cast, the first and only podcast dedicated to Orange County Soccer Club, its fans, and supporters. Follow us on Twitter at OCSC_SoccerCast or on Facebook at Orange and Black Soccer Cast.
How's it going, Orange County? Welcome to another episode of the Orange and Black Soccer Cast, presented by Roughneck Scarves and Icarus FC. We are the first and only podcast dedicated to Orange County Soccer Club, its fans and supporters. I'm your host, Ray Samore, and I'm with you pretty much each and every week as we discuss all things Orange County Soccer Club. Joining me as he does each and every episode since day one, we've got Dylan from County Line Coalition. Dylan, how's it going?
It's going well. And I have to say, all this season you said, it's Dylan from County Line Coalition, and I realized I actually haven't stood there at the fence the entire season, so I might be a fraud. But hey, I'm glad that we're here. I'm glad that everyone who's here is here because we're better than the debate.
Is that true? Are we actually
Yes.
Are we calling ourselves better than the debate? Okay. We can go with that. This is typically the point where I would introduce our third co-host, but he's MIA at the moment. We'll see if he jumps on here in a few, but hey, that gives us time to jump straight to our special guest joining us here for the first part of the show. He's been the goalkeeper for Orange County since mid-last season, one of the top goalkeepers in the USL, and that is Frederik Due. Frederik, welcome to the Orange and Black Soccer Cast.
Thank you, guys. How are you?
Doing pretty good. I mean, I can't complain other than the heat. I'm riding on a little bit of a high today because of the League Cup in England, but we're not here to talk about that with you. I'm sure you don't have any desire to talk about that much. So let's get straight into it.
Tottenham fan?
We do have a Tottenham fan. A Tottenham fan probably for the last 7 or 8 years now. So, but let's talk about you. Let's talk about this season with Orange County so far. I know it's not been the easiest of seasons for you and the guys with just this craziness that is 2020. Give us a quick rundown on how the season has gone from you from, playing a game, having a big layoff, jumping back in, and then pretty much playing almost every other night.
Yeah, it's been crazy. It has. We started with the first game, and then a week after that, the whole pandemic hit, and from day to another, we were shut down and starting our training back home and had our individual programs. And then from there, we basically just trained by ourselves for 3 months. And it was a nightmare because you want to see the guys, you want to be part of a group, and you want to train, at the facilities. But we got started again, and from there on, it's been great. A lot of restrictions, a lot of obviously COVID stuff and protocols, but we've been, pretty good, I think, to make it work. And then, it's just been more or less normal, if it could be normal, but yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, because, being a goalkeeper, that probably is one of the more difficult positions to sort of train when you're isolated. You're not allowed to be with other teammates that often, at least as, a player on the field, you can practice, some dribbling skills. You can pull up the net and practice, some shots or whatever. But as a goalie, a key part of your training is going to be taking practice being shot at and stopping those saves. How were you able to do your best in that situation? And what did you do to stay mentally sharp as a goalie?
It was a lot of running and all the boring stuff we normally hate. But yeah, sometimes we met with one of the guys, the goalkeeper Danny, and we did some training, just me and him, just to because if you go 3 months without touching a ball and catching a ball, it's more or less a disaster, and it takes the same amount to come back. So we had to do something, and basically we tried to do it, as safe as possible. And he was also living in our apartment for some time, so it was the best thing we could do, and then it worked. So it was good, but it was boring.
I can imagine the boredom. I know a lot of our listeners have commented on social media how it's just, you're losing your mind sitting around waiting to be able to do things. I know all the fans want to be back at that stadium. There's a few of them that come and hang out around the fence at the home matches. As a player out there, what has that meant for you guys, seeing some of the fans come out, hang out around the fences, trying to social distance a little bit, not be right on top of each other, but try to let their voices be heard by the players on the field? How does that impact you guys out there?
No, obviously it has a big impact. You see, it means something for people. People are, trying to engage as far as possible, that what you are able to in this moment. And yeah, as I said, it's just nice to hear some voices and some screams from the fans sometimes. So it's been nice, yeah.
So let me ask you, you guys got off to a really strong start when the restrictions were lifted. You got back to play 2 probably the peak of emotion matches there against Phoenix to restart the season, a draw and a victory for 4 points in 2 matches, which I think all the fans looked at. That was an exciting moment. The hopes were high at that point, but it seems like I don't know if you can maybe share some light into has it just because it's been such a crazy season where it's hard to build that consistency or work into a rhythm, or what would be your assessment of what's been going on since that peak high at the beginning of the return? And now we still have a chance of making the playoffs as a team, but it's a very slim and difficult chance at this point.
No, just to talk about the chance to getting in playoff, if we win the last 2 games, we are in playoffs. So that's what we focus on right now. And when as you saw in the beginning of the year, that if we play like we know we can play, we also gonna win those 2 games. That I'm 100% sure of. But yeah, we started really good with some key games against Phoenix, and we also had a little bit of luck. The first goal is in a lot of games really important. And you saw when was that? 3 days ago when we played in Phoenix, where we actually played a similar game to some of the home games against Phoenix, but Phoenix just scored the first goal, and we had a 1v1 with the keeper after 4 minutes, where in the beginning of the season we scored on those chances, and that just made it so much easier for the whole team, and we didn't have to chase something. So I think that's been the big key, is we haven't as a team been so more or less scoring on our chances, and that's the whole team. It's not only the strikers, because a lot of our players had chances to score, and then suddenly we conceded a goal, and then we had to chase, and that's been the big difference from the beginning of the year.
Let me ask you really quick about that goal that was conceded in the match. A lot of people, goalie is a very difficult position to play in this sport. You have a big space that you have to block the ball from going into, and sometimes the ball just doesn't bounce the right way. So in that instance, in Phoenix, you parry the ball away, but it doesn't go far enough away. You still have defenders in the area that can try and help you out, but the Phoenix players seem to get to the ball first. What's going through your mind in that split, 2 seconds of action where you parry the ball, but it doesn't go too far? What is Frederik Due thinking between the posts there at that point when he's trying to still save that?
What is he thinking? There's a lot of steps. First of all, you're trying to set the team on the set piece, and then you're trying to go after the set piece. If you can, you're trying to create an angle where you have the best possibilities to save the ball afterwards on the header. and I made that save, but it was more like a reaction. So I didn't control where the ball went. It was more or less just intuition of trying to hit the ball, and then we were unlucky, and it came straight to the striker again, and then it was a little bit of a scramble, and then the ball went in. So it was unlucky, and that's the luck you need sometimes to make important saves. It's also some luck.
And in that scramble, it looks like you almost got your hands on that ball. I mean, it was a really tight scramble right there in front of the goal. It looked like, an extra like millisecond, you would have been able to at least get your hand on that. I
can't hear anything.
Do you want to go, Dylan, or?
Well, he can't hear us, so this is all fun.
Apologize, Frederik. Are you able to hear us yet?
Back, I think.
All right, perfect. We're back.
We're
Awesome.
back. All right, go ahead, Alan, or Ray, or whoever's asking a question.
I was just going to ask you really quick, Frederik, on that play, you almost got your hands on the ball. How close were you to getting your hands on the ball there?
Hear you, Ray.
No, you can't. We might be having some audio trouble here, some connection trouble with Frederik. Sometimes with technology, you have to trust on Wi-Fi, internet connection, and things of that nature. Are you able to hear us now, Frederik?
I'm going to take it as a no, but look at that bottle of hand sanitizer. Or aloe. The man is prepared.
Well, let me say this because I think we've lost the audio connection with Frederik. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to thank Frederik for jumping onto the podcast this evening to speak with us. We got a few good bits of information. We'll try one more time. Frederik, are you able to hear us now? No? I don't think so. So I want to thank him for taking some time to join us this evening. I know, sometimes there's difficulties with technology. We experienced it a few weeks back with Cami Palmer while they were at the hotel in Las Vegas. And we always appreciate when players take a chance to. Awesome, man. Awesome. Good. The frustration of trying to make technology work. We love it. But we appreciate the players taking their time to jump on here, try and work things out. We got at least a few answers out of Frederik. I know Alan seems like he was really wanting to get a question in there before we had some technical difficulties. But we appreciate the time there. Let me ask you, I'll go to you first, Alan. Let's see. Frederik, I think, is trying to come back on here. Let's see if he's able to get back on here now. Frederik, are you able to hear us now?
Yeah, it's working again.
It's
technical support.
Technology issues here, especially, with Wi-Fi and internet. We're relying on 4 internet connections here to work properly to make this work. Really quick, I was just going to ask you that save, you almost got your hands on it. How close were you to getting your hands on that ball and stopping that ball from going in the goal?
The goal in Phoenix?
Yes.
Pretty close. When you save the first one, then you're pretty close to save the second one as well. So it was just unlucky. I don't know how it went in.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing when I was watching the stream on ESPN Plus. I was watching and I'm like, oh man, like literally you almost had that save there, and I was hoping that didn't go into the net. Let me pass it off to you really quick, Dylan, with a question for Frederik.
Oh man, I'm so on the spot. All right, Frederik, you've been here for just over 13 months now, I believe 13 months and 8 days. Wow, look at that. You've had to split this year with Aaron in goal. Has it been difficult not necessarily having the number one spot each week? Obviously, I'm sure the competition is great, but is it mentally, from a mental standpoint, as a player, difficult to jump into goal maybe every other week?
If I have to be completely honest, we haven't been splitting time. I've been playing more or less every time I was ready. So that's what I have to say.
Fair enough.
Alan, what do you got for Frederik?
So I noticed that on some like set pieces and stuff, you make your way kind of close to the center line, center of the pitch, try to get a little bit closer to the action. How agonizing is it as a keeper to kind of be so far removed from this action, especially in like close matches where a set piece can really make or break a game? What is it like being a goalkeeper that's so far away from the action and you're like almost like a fan at that point, hoping that your players come through? Like, talk me through what it's like as a keeper to kind of stay in some of those matches.
No, for me personally, it's more just be like mentally involved in the game all the time, so you keep yourself ready. And you can call it a fan. That's actually pretty funny. But yeah, it's more or less like you're hoping like the fans, we're hoping that we are going to score on the set piece, and then you're also you're trying to organize the defense in terms of a transition, and like there's a lot of things, and then you just hope for a goal every time, obviously.
Yeah, you're definitely a very vocal goalkeeper there. Anyone that goes to the matches, they hear your voice plenty, especially now with no fans in the stadium. You can hear Frederik yelling between the posts quite often. I always try and I coach youth soccer. I try and tell my goalies, hey, listen to the goalie for Orange County. He is telling his defense where to go, what to do, and he's not just sitting there, picking grass out of the ground or anything like that, like some of these young goalies do. Let's just do this. Let's spend a couple minutes here just to let our fans know a little bit more about you outside of like what it is, that, playing the game and stuff like that, or at least as a professional. How did you get your start? Like, what was your first like experience with soccer? How did you get your start, your start with the sport?
Yeah, that was back in Denmark. We, you start pretty early. I think I was in the age of 5 when I started playing soccer, and then you just basically go there and you just follow the steps. And I was so lucky that I got my breakthrough in my academy club. So in age of 18, I was in the first team squad and was the second goalkeeper in the second division in Denmark, so the next best. And then I was playing there for 6 years, and 3 of them I was the starting goalkeeper. And then I got the move to the Superliga in Denmark, which is the best league. And then I played there for 3 years and went to the States last year, to Hartford Athletic. And then I came here.
Perfect. Let me ask you this: like, who is the probably the player that you watch and you mold your game after? Who's your idol as far as a soccer player?
I remember when I was a kid, the national team had a goalkeeper, Peter Schmeichel. And that year when I was born, we won the Euros, and then he played for the national team like 10 years from there. And I remember him as the first goalie I like thought was pretty good. And from there on, like you always look on other goalkeepers. I still do that, like see guys who has the similar height, similar way of playing. And when you watch them, so when I watch a soccer game, I'm more focused on the goalkeeper, like no matter what game it is, to see how certain guys are doing, and certain guys are like, it could be a kick, it could be goal kicks, it could be set pieces, whatever. So that's like the way I get some inspiration sometimes.
So you're always trying to improve, even if you're watching the game. You're watching to learn from that and improve your game as a goalie. That's pretty awesome to hear. Let me ask you this: if you were to go bust out your phone, go on, I don't know if you listen to Spotify, iTunes, what it is. If you were to open it up, push play, what song is going to be playing right there? What do you think?
After this year, one of my teammates, Sible, came. We actually have a lot of similar artists we're listening to, and this year it has been, I think, Harry Styles and Dermot Kennedy from I don't know if he's from England or Scotland, but those two, I don't know if music. You know them.
I'll say this: I know Harry Styles. I think everyone knows Harry Styles, right? The other one I'm not quite certain with. I'm gonna catch flack for that because. Trust me, I'll be listening back to this and going back and looking for the recommendation because I want to listen to that. Dylan, do you have a quick question for Frederik before we let him go?
Yeah, we've asked you some actual questions, and then I'm here to ask you a garbage question. And what is your favorite vegetable, and how do you prepare it?
Favorite vegetable? It's probably tomatoes and cucumber. I eat a lot of bread, and I use that. So I don't cook it at all, just raw.
That actually sounds pretty good right now.
Yeah.
I want to go chop up
so
some tomatoes,
simple.
some cucumber,
So simple.
add a little bit of olive oil to it, and go
Yeah,
with
you
that,
do
right?
that.
Perfect. Well, let me say this, because what is it? 2 more matches left in the season for Orange County to make the push. Like Frederik said, if they can win these 2 matches they're in, which is an amazing feat, and we're really looking forward to it. Ladies and gentlemen, you can catch Frederik and the team as they make that push for the playoffs. You can watch them on ESPN Plus. Hopefully they make that work. Frederik, can you give us some odds? Like, what do you think? How confident are you on this team making the playoffs?
I would say I'm pretty confident. I'm thinking like this way: if we're not able to beat those 2 teams, we shouldn't be in the playoff anyway. So that's more or less what we're going after, to prove that we are right now the second best team in our conference or group. So yeah, I'm pretty confident that we're gonna make it.
I like that honesty. If you can't beat these 2 teams, you don't deserve it, which is exactly what it is, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, support Frederik, support Orange County, watch those matches, and best of luck to you, Frederik, and your teammates in these final 2 matches of the season. Thank you guys for joining us.
Been a pleasure. Take care.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Once again, Frederik Due, goalkeeper for Orange County Soccer Club. We appreciate it. Just like Cami Palmer a few weeks ago, had some technical difficulties, but he didn't give up. He came back on and it worked out. We were able to complete it this time, which is awesome. Again, we always appreciate when any of the players take time to join us on our podcast here and our live streams, which is pretty cool. Let's talk about this match in Phoenix. I think everyone knew this is probably out of the final 3 matches, the most difficult of them, going on the road to Phoenix against a pretty solid team, even though it's a team that we had beaten once earlier this season and then drew once earlier this season. How disappointed or excited about the result in Phoenix would you have been? I hate to throw the word excited because a loss is not exciting, but to go in and, it's really just a bounce of the ball that could have ended up in it being a draw there in Phoenix. And Orange County definitely had their chances. Dylan, let me go to you first. Oh, you couldn't hear it, but if you're watching live stream, Dylan just sneezed. So we're going to say Gesundheit.
Oh, that hurt. Oh, that one really hurt.
Go ahead and pause real
right.
quick. Dylan, get your thoughts, recuperate from that violent sneeze there. Alan, let me go to you really quick.
I think this is an example of 2 teams that really didn't want to give up a whole lot. There weren't any huge swings as far as momentum is concerned. It wasn't necessarily that Phoenix outplayed Orange County. Orange County definitely had their opportunities for sure. Darwin Jones looked great early, and then they kind of faded a little bit late. But compared to trips to Phoenix in the past, you give up a kind of fluky goal. Again, you get a lucky bounce, and it goes the other way. I think the big concern is just not scoring again. I think that's the biggest concern. But Orange County still has their fate in their hands. I think winning a game, drawing a game, and losing a game against Phoenix is at the beginning of the season. If you said that, hey, you're going to win at home, you're going to draw at home, but you might lose on the road. I think most people would have taken that, especially because you get, 4 points from them. Basically, you split the series. And if you're looking at the way that Group B is set up, if you split the series against Phoenix, you just got to beat the other teams you're up against. And, looking at the highlights, there was definitely some opportunities early, and I thought Orange County looked really good early. They just didn't capitalize on the mistakes that Phoenix gave them. And if there's one thing about Phoenix is they're not exactly the most solid at the back. And so you got to really take advantage of those opportunities to make them pay. We're looking here in the 23rd minute, and you chip the keeper and you get a goal. There's a Darwin Jones play where he's kind of in on goal a little bit earlier. I think there's some positives to take away from this match for sure. And I think that you're just a little bit unlucky with a bounce. Frederik Due makes a really good save. The ball bounces off and then back in again. And you just got to, sometimes that's just how soccer works. It's a cruel sport. But to go into Phoenix and hold them to 1 goal is pretty impressive. The thing that is worrisome is the lack of goal scoring again. You get 1 of those goals in, and now you're at a draw, which is great. And going to Phoenix to get a draw.
So it seems like it's a recurring theme for our podcast here is the lack of goal scoring is really what's hurting this team. Dylan, what are your thoughts? I mean, is there opportunities that Orange County should have capitalized on, or is this result a fair result here, based on what we've seen or what we saw in the match?
I think those are two really separate questions. I think Orange County, I think it was a fair result, if I'm being honest. I think we were second best in that match. Just, we look so devoid of confidence every time we make an attacking move. And then you get the sense that being in Phoenix, being this team that's at the top of the group, that it's coming. The goal is coming at some point. And it's almost like a little bit of a breath of fresh air when Orange County concedes, because you're like, okay, well, now it's up to them to fight back. And we've seen them fight back already this season. We've seen them fight back against Phoenix this season. So we could have gotten a result there. But yeah, there were multiple chances where Orange County really, really should have scored. Darwin Jones, like 90 seconds into the game, you need to take a touch, put it onto your left foot, and all you have to do is, the goal is wide open at that point because Lubin's sitting at the near post, and all you do is tap it in. But yeah, I mean, if we don't score, we're not going to make the playoffs. And like Frederik said, if we don't beat these two teams,
we don't deserve it.
Well, we don't deserve it. And that's a fair reflection of the season, because there have been games that we handily should have won where we just squandered chances or played down to a team and let them beat us at their own game.
So I think one of the things that's really hurting us in the scoring, because you guys are both talking about, hey, we're not scoring, we need to score, right? Is it seems like every time there's an opportunity, the players are trying to force it onto their strong foot. Like you said, Dylan, Darwin probably would have been better off making that, taking one dribble into the middle and using his left foot to try and get that in, or even make the pass to, I think it was Okoli who was streaking down the left side of the pitch there. We've seen numerous opportunities where Okoli is trying to push it onto his right foot and get a goal that way instead of taking the, I guess, more obvious shot on the left foot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, before I
think we've seen that with velocity and all that stuff. Go for it, Dylan.
Yeah, before I go and say, like, oh, I would have just taken it onto my left and lashed it out with my left. Like, it's not easy to do when you're running full speed, and this chance presents itself in front of you, and you're only on one goal this season. You have a chance to nick an early goal, and then the team could sit back and do it. I get, like, the pressure that comes with that. And we talked to Chap a couple weeks ago, and he said, basically, guys are passing when they should be shooting. Guys are shooting when they need to be passing. This was probably one of those opportunities where DJ should pass it to Ugo, and Ugo's got a nice, clear attempt on goal. But, if we create 10 chances in a game, you put 3-4 of those on target, one of those should be finding the back of the net. And at some point, it's got to give, and it needs to be tomorrow night, or we get to sit at home and we don't get any playoff action.
So ultimately, you look at the schedule, right? Tomorrow night's match is the big one. Tomorrow night is the one where you have to go in and get the victory. If you don't get the victory, you really are giving yourself no shot at this, right? I mean, if you get the victory and then you draw your next match, you still potentially have a chance, correct?
I believe if we draw this match, we're not necessarily out, but Phoenix has to beat San Diego, and then we have to win, and it also depends on how Los Dos does in their final match. Basically, if we want to control our own fate, we have to win matches. And that is a statement that doesn't mean anything, because that is a statement that is true from week 1 to week 16 or to week 35.
So basically what it is right now, Orange County is in playoff mode. I mean, really, it's win or go home at this point. There are chances they can make it if they don't win over these next two matches. But really, in all honesty, they have to win or go home at this point. And I think the fans, and it sounds like, at least one of the players that we talked to tonight is in that mode, is you have to win or you don't deserve to be in those playoffs. So really now we're looking as Orange County fans, this is not a 3 tier playoffs. It's basically 5 tiers of playoffs here. You have to win to eventually make it to that championship, I believe. If I'm getting the math wrong, I apologize. Didn't pre-plan to say that comment. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, but I'm not sitting there looking at a bracket to count it out or anything like that. I'm just trying to, off the top of my head, think about it. All right. So let's talk about this match against Lostos coming up tomorrow as we record this. If you're listening to this podcast, more than likely it's later on today. How much does Lostos scare you, Alan?
How do I want to answer this question?
Do you need a hug? Before you answer this, do you need a hug?
No, I think I'm still trying to process what happened last Wednesday and the effects it's had on the league and the players. I absolutely detest Lostos, so if they never win a game again, I would be the happiest person in the world. I get that they have mutually agreed to part ways with said player, but how they've handled it afterwards has been just an absolute disgrace, and it's BS. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm afraid of Lostos, but they can score goals. They give up goals. So if this is the game that Orange County needs to get back on track to score some goals, then Brew's all for it. I'm all for it. At this point, yes, I would like for either of these two teams to get to the playoffs as long as it's not Lostos. So I will be cheering very, very hard for Lostos to lose 14-0. They are a tricky team. They're a young team that doesn't give up. We saw that against Las Vegas. We saw that against San Diego, that they're going to play into the final whistle because they don't care. They also play very physical. We saw them professional fouls, if you will, which I think can mess with the timing of Orange County. I don't necessarily say Orange County should be afraid of Los Angeles, but I think they just should be aware that this is the opportunity to re-solidify the defense and then re-figure out the offense. I think there's no better game than this one to set yourself up for that Las Vegas game, which is also going to be a test. Let's be real. Las Vegas, they're eliminated and they haven't been great, but it's not like they're just a pushover. It's not like they're RGV or they're right. Brew's agreeing with me 100%. That's what he's telling me. He says he agrees. But I think Orange needs to use this Lostos game as a way to put a couple on frame, put a couple in because they do give up goals, and then really solidify that backline again and really figure out kind of that early season Orange County that we saw, really stout defense, like we saw against San Diego, the first match at home or at San Diego, where you get a couple of really good goals and just don't give up anything. I think that's what I'm looking forward to see from Orange County.
So, and Alan brought up, San Diego and Lostos, and I want to spend a little bit of time talking about that as we get towards the end of this, but I want to go through what Orange County is going through the next couple matches here before we get to that. Dylan, Orange County, LA, what does Orange County have to do to win this match? And I know I don't want it to be easy. I don't want you to say score goals because that's the obvious answer. What does Orange County need to do to come away with 3 points against Lostos?
Scored 2 goals because the last 3 matches between these teams have all ended in 2-1 score lines. Now,
so score 2 goals and they win.
Yeah, I hate to be that person, but it is score goals for the first time in a score goals, multiple goals. We are the 4th lowest scoring team in the USL. The entire league, the teams that are either tied or worse than us are Miami, Oklahoma City, and RGV. RGV has not won a game this season. Oklahoma has won 1 game this season. Miami has won 2 games this season. So in a sense, we're punching above our weight class. The defense has figured it out. We get scored on when we're chasing the game. We don't have to chase the game if we score. We don't have to chase the game if we score first. I mean, if you look at Portland Timbers, 15 matches, 9 points, 3 wins. They've scored 20 goals. Las Vegas has outscored Orange County by 7 goals. So it really is score goals, because if it comes down to a point at the end of the season, it might be 2-3 teams with 7 wins in a situation like that, and you need that goal difference to make to make the difference there. If it's 85 minutes in and we're trying to do this physical, like Kenny Palmer WWE thing going on, to like wrestle the ball away from it, then Los Dos is won the match. But we need to score. I mean, our tactic, we cannot be Croatia in the 2018 World Cup. Our tactic cannot be park the bus, walk around for 120 minutes, and then go to pens and try and win on pens.
So honestly, I feel like it's like we need to push our players that can score up higher, right? I mean, that's something I've been saying.
Right, blah, blah, blah. Aiden Quinn plays further up the pitch.
Quinn,
that's
get
not
up
how
higher.
formation works
We need
anymore.
goals. You're saying we need goals, Dylan. The way we're going to get goals is let's push Aiden Quinn up the pitch a little bit more.
Do you know how many minutes we spent?
There's a reason I don't get paid to be the coach of Orange County, because apparently the right way to do it is to keep Aiden Quinn back. But
dang, wow. I hope Braden hears this someday, and I hope he's listening right now and loses his mind. Do you know how many minutes we played against Phoenix with actual, true wide players, like wingers?
Probably very little.
14. Well, if you count stoppage time, then 20. But it was when Kevin Coleman came on.
No, I get it. I totally get it. I totally get it. I'm trying to figure out, how do we get more quality shots on goal? We know Aiden Quinn is a quality goal scorer. He's proved it, 2 seasons ago when he was one of the top assist and goal scorers in the league. So that's why I keep saying it, and I'm not seeing it. And I don't know if I'm the only one that's being frustrated by this thought of let's keep Aiden a little bit deeper. Maybe I'm the only one. Who knows? But I'm just looking. We haven't been able to score goals all season. I'm just looking at try something. Try that out. Who knows what'll happen? But hey, and at this point, I asked you, Dylan, what do we need to do to beat Los Dos without saying score goals? And your answer is score goals. So obviously, we need to figure out how to score goals, and someone that can score goals in numbers is not in the best position to score goals in numbers. So that's how I'll say it there. That's what I'll say. And you can disagree with me, Dylan, if you want. That's the awesome part of this podcast format. We've never really gotten to this point where we like totally disagree on stuff and we're ready to fight. Yeah, we got to go this way.
Come on.
Yeah, if you're watching the stream, this is awesome.
I think if you create 20 chances in a game instead of 10 chances in a game, we win. I think Hugo puts 2 or 3 of those away. I think DJ puts one of those away. I think guys like Kenny Palmer, who are able to play a little bit further up the pitch, a little bit more freedom. Hell, I think Brian Olowski scores 1 or 2 in that kind of situation. And you know who's going to create all those chances? Because the guy who's not just pinging a ball, but creating something with some swerve and putting it where it needs to be? Aiden Quinn. And he's best at doing that from the 6 as a Mazzella.
Ladies and gentlemen, so now Dylan cares more about quantity. I'm caring more about quality. Let's go from that. So, okay, let's assume Orange County wins this match against Los Dos. They move on and face Vegas. Really, at that point, if they beat Los Dos, they're sort of in the total driver's seat. I'm not looking at the standings as we speak right now. I'm trying to pull them up. But if they beat Los Dos, they will be sitting on 24 points. Los Dos will be on 23. San Diego will be on 23. So ultimately, you go into that final match against Vegas knowing you probably still need to win or get a result with some help or whatnot. What does Orange County do to beat Vegas, Alan? And don't say score goals.
I really think they just need to score goals. I mean, I think that's what it boils down to.
Thank you, Alan.
Alan is saying we need to move Aiden Quinn up the pitch to score goals, is what he's saying. Well, let me ask you this, Alan. Whose side are you on? Are you on the quantity or the quality side of this argument? Just for the purpose of our podcast here.
I think at this point, Orange County needs to worry a little bit more about quantity. I just don't think they're getting enough offense and enough shots on goal. The few that they got against Phoenix were fine. But against a Los Dos team, against even a Vegas team, you need to score, multiple goals. And in order to get multiple goals, you need multiple shots, especially multiple shots on target. I don't necessarily think it's a quantity versus quality thing because I think they're getting some opportunities. They just need to put better shots on frame. And then I think there's just something to be said about.
Let me just say this real quick. Didn't you just now? I'm going to ask you, Dylan, because you're the literary.
Yes, he did say better, guy. Which is a qualifying term.
Quality. He's basically making an argument. He said he thinks quantity. He thinks quantity, but then he's
you need an increase of quality chances. So you need both.
He's trying to please both of us.
We cracked
I agree with both of
Orange
you.
County needs more better chances.
He didn't want to pick a side. He was trying to be so like he just wants to be on the fence. Boom.
And I think this is what San Diego went through on the 3-game losing streak. It's when you're not scoring goals, things aren't going right. So you overthink things. You try to get too fancy. You try to overdo it. As opposed to trusting yourself. Like if Orange County was scoring 2 or 3 goals a match, they would trust themselves to put the ball on frame. I think this is what, when you talk about goal scorers, they just keep shooting and keep shooting and keep shooting because they know that they're going to score. I don't necessarily see that a lot from Orange County right now. It just seems like they're snake bitten. Like every single player is having that mental issue of, and I think it just comes from you have to take that next shot. When you get that opportunity, just take that next shot. When you get that opportunity, just take that next shot. And I think right now they're like, well, if I put it on my right foot, I'll get a better shot. If I pass it, they'll get a better shot. I think they're almost too much in their head. And I think they need to take a beat and really trust themselves because there is absolute talent on the pitch for Orange County. I couldn't if you went player by player, they're good. 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 But just for some reason, things aren't clicking. And you see this from time to time. Look at the Miami FC. They have tons of players, yet they can't win because things aren't clicking right. It's been one of those they'll get it right. They'll get it right. They'll get it right because they've shown year after year after year that they figure it out. I'm hoping they figure it out.
Well, let me just say this, right? So again, this is just my thought, is the guys that are quality guys. I'm not saying Ugo and DJ and Kevin Coleman and whoever else is trying to score goals are not quality players that should be able to score goals. I truly believe that these are good players. They are just in their head at this point. They're, to quote you, Alan, snake bitten at this point, right? Why not try to put someone like an Aiden Quinn, who is a proven goal scorer, into a position where he's going to get better, more quality shots? I get it. Our defense has been amazing, and part of it has been Aiden Quinn back there. But both of you have said we need to now score goals to be able to get into the playoffs. That's really what it is. Our defense has proven itself. We need to score goals. How are we going to score goals if we have all of our goal scorers are in a funk and can't take the shot? And it seems like every shot's either going straight to the opposing goalkeeper or missing the target completely. We need to figure out ways to get other opportunities to get the goals. And I really, truly believe that Aiden Quinn, a little bit higher up the pitch, would provide that. And again, you guys might disagree with me on that. I have no problem with it. That's what is amazing about being a soccer fan and just being an American in general. We can have different opinions and still be able to talk about it and have fun and
shut up, Ray.
And debate about things, right? So let me just say this, ladies and gentlemen, if you listen to our podcast, go onto our social media, tag us and say, who do you agree with? Do you agree with my opinion that we need to maybe push Aiden Quinn further up, or do you think we need to keep going the way we're going and hopefully in these 2 games we're going to get the goals? I mean, that's what I want to say there, and that's where I'll wrap this up. Dylan, I'll give you one last thing to say here.
All right, I just want to say that the expected goals of shots taken from outside the box is statistically so low. And if you play that against a low block team, like we've seen Los Dos do in the past, where they're just okay, we're going to defend, and we're going to cram everyone into 20 meters of space vertically, and we're going to stretch them as wide out as possible so they can't stretch us anymore. And you're trying to take pot shots or even blast it from 30 yards. doesn't necessarily mean you score. So this is why we don't get paid the big bucks, and we just talk about soccer for free and take up an hour of your time every week.
You're proving my point, though, Dylan, is right now the way Aiden Quinn is positioned, he's taking those deep shots. So if you have him further up, he can potentially get into the box and take the shots. Or if he's in the box, he's going to draw defenders to him. He can then set up his teammates for an easier pass. The defenders aren't going to be attracted to him when he's 40 feet away from the goal. They're going to probably sit back a little bit or 40 yards or whatever. Don't question me when I'm using measurements there, Dylan.
I didn't question you.
Yeah, I saw your face.
There was no question, son.
Let's do this because I want to give a little bit of time to another topic here. By this time next week, we're going to know if Orange County season is over or if it continues. Dylan, are we going to be happy next week or are we going to be upset or sad next week?
Oh, man. We will be content. Because the job's not done. If we win one match, great. We have another one to win.
One match.
The job's not done, right? Do you settle just because we make the playoffs? No. If we go out first round, that's disappointment.
Okay, then
So we will be content to make the playoffs.
Let me ask it in a different way. Are we going to be talking about an upcoming match next week?
Yes, because of guys like Rob Kiernan, guys like Aiden Quinn, guys like Ugo Okoli.
Alan, are we as Orange County fans going to be talking about an upcoming match next week?
I would say there's a 75% chance that Orange County is talking about another match next week.
Yes or no? Yes or no? Are we doing it? Yes or no?
Yes. We're talking about another match. Whether it's Orange County involved is another question, but yes, next week we're talking about another match.
Oh, you guys try to get out of these answers. You guys are being a little chicken here today.
Ask better questions.
Let me say this. If we keep going with what we've been doing that's proven that we can't get goals, then I'm going to say no. If we can change things up and try something new in these last two matches, I get it. It's not really a time to be experimenting, but right now it's the time we need to basically leave it all on the pitch, which means you need to come up with something different that will work because what we've been doing all season hasn't seemed to work at this point. So if we play it the way we've played all season and we go into it without making any kind of strategic changes, then I say no. If we try something, there's a chance and I'll say yes. And ladies and gentlemen, listening to our podcast, go on to social media and let us know what you think. Are Orange County going to make the playoffs? Yes or no? Simple as that. There's a better question for you, Dylan, right? Is that a better question for you?
Proud of you.
All right, let's get into a very, very serious topic here.
Yeah, fun's over.
Fun's over. Let's talk about
time for important stuff.
Yeah, important stuff. Let's talk about another team. Let's talk about San Diego. They made a very, very
Friday.
statement over the weekend, I believe is when it came out. Friday counts as the weekend, right? I would say sort of yes. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? But they basically announced, hey, we don't want that point from LA Galaxy, Lostos 2, Lostos. Yeah, something like that. Because of what happened on the pitch against Lostos. And I'm going to hand it off to Alan to sort of let us know what the scenario or what the situation was, and then we can talk about it. Because Alan is our San Diego loyal fan, supporter, podcaster, everything.
So Wednesday night's match between San Diego and Lostos in the 71st minute, there was a kerfuffle, if you will, between Elijah Martin and some of the Lostos players. He thought he was fouled. He lands on the ball. He stays on the ball, and he's kind of like picked up and pushed. And he makes a little bit of a big deal about it. And several of match officials come over. There's a ton of Lostos players. There's a couple San Diego players. And it's somewhere in that commotion, the N word is used by a Lostos player toward the direction of a San Diego player. Allegedly, match officials heard. Allegedly, Los Dos coaches heard, but nothing was done about it. Los Dos player gets yellow card for kind of pushing over Elijah Martin, but nothing is really done. And if you are a St. Louis player, you know that if you use racist language, you get a red card. It's an immediate red card. It should be immediate red card. Me personally, I think it should be more than an immediate red card. But on the field, immediate red card. He should have been sent off. He was not. Play was allowed to continue. Elijah Martin then gets 2 yellow cards subsequently in the next 20 minutes. Gets sent off. That's how his season ends, which is unfortunate. Elijah Martin, fantastic human being, really positive dude. You hate to see his season essentially end this way, unless a miracle happens where San Diego can beat Phoenix and everything else goes right. He might get another game, but at this point, there's like a 9% chance it's happening. So Elijah Martin's season ends with him being racially abused and then dismissed from a game. Subsequently, San Diego finds out about it. And on Friday, I've been told that they sent the league was aware of their announcement. But that's as far as they'll go. They have we tried to get someone on tonight, and they told me that they're not making any more comments. So we tried to get some people on tonight to talk about it, and unfortunately, you're stuck with me. San Diego says we're forfeiting. We don't want anything to do with that game, which I think is the right call. I think if your teammate is racially abused and nothing happens, you walk off the pitch. Say we're not doing any of it. The league has not really said anything. My take on it is the league isn't going to say anything on it. The league is going to take this as a draw and leave the points where it is, which is unfortunate. There are some extenuating circumstances. For example, if the game is dropped and both teams lose a point and lose a game, they actually have a higher points per game average, which could make the case for Orange County not making the playoffs. And they don't want Orange County to be punished for something that was not involving them, which is fair. I get it. But what it boils down to is the bigger question of, is releasing a player and that player being suspended enough of a punishment or enough of a, I don't want to say a retribution. That's not the right word, but is that the right, in result of an action where a player is racially abused by another player, especially when, 70 minutes earlier, they're kneeling on the pitch saying United Against Racism. There's some questions to be answered about the role of coaches. If coaches have a role to play in stopping that behavior and pulling him from the pitch. But essentially at this point, what I think the league is going to do is nothing. I think the league is not going to put out a statement because they do not want to wade into this discussion. I think Loyal and LA both stay on 23 points, which makes this next game between Orange County and Los Dos essentially, if one team wins, they're essentially putting themselves in the driver's seat for the playoffs. I would have liked to see Los Dos face some harsher consequences for the players' actions, but also for the way that the team represented themselves. They have yet to put out a statement saying that they are, even if it was, we don't believe that racist comments have any place on the pitch, and we regret that this happened. We saw none of that from Los Dos. So essentially, we've released the player, which is disappointing. But that's kind of where the situation is right now. I still feel very hard done by the decisions that were made that did have an effect on the outcome. Now I get it. It was a missed call, just like any other missed call. But racial abuse to me is a little bit different than, hey, it was a tackle that might have been a yellow, might have been a red. It ended up being a yellow instead of a red. I think it's a little bit different. But in fairness, I think at this point it's going to be a draw, because I think it puts Orange County in a place where they're having to either benefit or not benefit from a decision being made in that match.
So let me start off by saying kudos to San Diego Loyal and even their fans, because I think their fans were behind this statement and this decision by the club, which is awesome to see, especially because San Diego is in the thick of a playoff race. I mean, those points are important to San Diego's chances of making a playoff appearance in their first season. So kudos to San Diego for being willing to look past the financial benefit of making a playoff in their first season, or just sort of a, kudos, hey, we made the playoffs in our first season here in the USL, by taking a stance on something like this. Because anyone that's listened to our podcast knows that we are strongly against, these types of actions, these types of things happening. We spent a whole episode talking about racism, and not even talking about soccer, just talking about racism, which was sort of difficult, being three Caucasians talking about racism on a podcast that's supposed to be a soccer podcast. But we did it because we all three strongly believe in equality and getting rid of racism, being anti-racist, all that type of stuff. So when something like this happens, San Diego takes a stance and says, we do not want that point from that match, because this is a bigger issue than soccer. This is a bigger issue than San Diego Loyal. This is a bigger issue than the USL. This is a serious thing. Kudos to that. Alan can be the person that says, the moment I saw this news drop, I was texting Alan, hey, can you see if we can get a San Diego person on our podcast? I was ready to spend the first half hour of this podcast, talking to someone from San Diego, discussing this, because I believe in this moment, this statement, this stance that San Diego took, which was awesome. Really sucks that a team like Los Dos hasn't made even that cookie cutter public statement of saying, like sort of what Alan said. I'm not going to try and copy what he said there, and just sort of, said what they have to say to look like they're on that side as well. We've seen that before, not just in sports, but in general, when you watch what people say, sometimes it's just that, I'll say what I need to say just to not look bad. Right. It made me become a San Diego fan just in that instance, from them taking that stance. It made me really want to like that team. Now, I'm an Orange County fan. If it comes down to Orange County versus San Diego, I'm going to have to cheer for Orange County just because that's my squad. But any other time, I mean, San Diego is now my second favorite USL club, because their willingness to take that stance and show that they're standing for more than just soccer. They're standing for, anti-racism, basically, is what they're standing for. Dylan, what are your thoughts?
It should be. Sports is difficult, right? Because I see a lot, and I mean a lot of people on the internet say, like, oh, why don't you just keep the politics out of sports?
But then you have the national anthem before sporting.
Yeah, everything is so performative, right? We have a national anthem play before non-international matches. We kneel for 15 seconds before every match. These things are really performative, and that's not every team, right? A lot of teams have donated to their communities. They got more involved. We have the USL Black Players Association and their efforts to getting more people to vote. A lot of Black USL players who are donating money every week, depending on, in like a Playing for Pride kind of esque thing, where they're donating depending on how their match goes, per save, and then matching that with some other guys. A lot of that stuff. So it's not all performative, but it really speaks volumes about the quality of your organization when you can't even after the fact say, hey, this wasn't okay. This doesn't represent what we believe in or what we stand for. This was unacceptable. You can't say any of that. You just say, oh, well, he's gone. Like, oh, we're getting a lot of bad press. But we're not going to say anything else. It's embarrassing. It's really pathetic. I can't imagine what it's like to be a Galaxy fan at this point. Do you support a club like that? Is that the ideal that you rely on? Because whether we like it or not, sports and politics are extremely intertwined because of, well, the idea of taking a thing that's representing an entire region or group of people and and it's a competition. I mean, right? It's embarrassing. And I don't know how one could really say that they could be against racism and then not further criticize their club or push their club to do better. So wow, massive disappointment with the Galaxy, a massive disappointment with the player, and I'm massively disappointed for Elijah Martin, who, although I hate when he plays against us because he is incredibly gifted on the pitch. He, from everyone I've ever heard talk about him, from fellow players to coaches, he seems like an absolutely incredible person. Beyond that, I mean, no one, even if he was a horrible person, no one deserves that. We really need to move on from this. We need to work to move on from this, right? Kneeling for 15 seconds before the beginning of every match, as we've learned, doesn't stop players from being racially abused during matches. It doesn't mean that people don't get killed or arrested. That we have to do better. And I mean, that means even people like us that are on this podcast and people that are listening, we just have to be better for each other and for guys like Elijah Martin.
Yeah. And, I'm very disappointed that the league is not going to, or at least at this point, doesn't seem like the league is going to make a statement, take a stance or whatever, or even hold officiating accountable for that. If it's true that the officials at the match heard what was said. I mean, we experienced it here in Orange County a few seasons back against St. Louis. I think, Alan, you brought that up, right? It's something that happened. And in that instance, the player got a red card. I mean, kudos to that ref for taking a stance before, I'm not trying to sound like a jerk right now, but before it was the popular thing to do, right? That ref took the stance before it was this national movement that's going on nowadays, which was awesome. And in this instance, against San Diego, or in the match between San Diego and Los Dos, the ref just sort of ignores that comment. If the ref in fact did hear that comment on the pitch, is disappointing as well. So, I was really hoping we wouldn't have to bring up these types of discussions anymore. Like it was again really difficult to talk about this stuff as a soccer podcast a couple months ago or a few months ago or whenever that was. Talk about something more than soccer. But again, it's something, I know we all three strongly believe in. So when these situations happen, we're going to definitely share our thoughts on it. If you don't like hearing what we have to say on this,
don't listen to our podcast.
Don't listen to us. I mean, we're not forcing you to listen to us.
I don't want you to listen to this podcast and enjoy this.
Yes.
This isn't like a political statement. Like the three of us, I feel comfortable speaking for you two. We are absolutely anti-racist. That's not a political statement. That's just saying that, like, I actually think that people should be treated equally, and there should be some level of equity involved here. So if you don't agree with that, I mean, I don't know how you made it this far on this podcast, but don't come back and don't tweet at me because I don't care.
Or tweet it at Dylan and then he'll just ignore you.
That too.
Alan, any last thoughts on this topic before we move on? I know we're going a little bit longer than normal, but I don't want to rush through this topic. If there's anything else we want to share.
I mean, I know I've shared kind of my thoughts on this. The USL show recorded a special episode, and we spent a good deal of time talking about this topic. And I shared my thoughts and my expectations and maybe some suggestions on how to change the culture on and off the pitch. There's tons of articles out there about fans racially abusing players, and while that's never a good thing, I think it's all more stark when it's player on player. And we've talked about this before, like the heat of the battle is no excuse for behaving inappropriately. And I would hope that the ESL really investigates and does some work in trying to figure out ways to change the culture on the pitch, to engage with the players, to make sure that, it's a safe working environment. Ultimately, these people are these people. The players are out there, and this is their job. And just imagine if you were racially abused at your job, you would, lose it. You would lose it. It would be terrible. There'd be people upset for obvious reasons, but for some reason around sports, there's always it's the heat of the battle and a bunch of BS excuses. So my piece on the USL show. So I will spare going into huge detail here, but check it out. We did talk about it and talk about some possible solutions to put an end to this.
Yeah, definitely check out the USL show. Great place to go. Great guys over there that talk USL, and Alan's a big part of that. So we always appreciate that Alan comes over with us and hangs out with us too, because he's not just an Orange County Soccer Club podcaster. He does San Diego. He does the USL show. He's just jam-packed. He's more of a podcast expert than we are, right, Dylan? I guess at this point. And it all started from that.
Myself an expert.
It all started from him opening a bag of chips on that USL show. That's how his career got started as a podcaster. Yeah, it's I really hope I know the USL is not listening to our small little podcast here talking about Orange County Soccer Club, but if they are, listen to what we have to say. I mean, it's just disappointing if you're not going to, at least make a statement about it. If you think that's not a problem, then just stand up and say, USL, that it's not a problem. I want to hear what you guys think as an organization, but don't just sit there and be quiet and sort of hide behind your corporate offices or something. Take a stance on this one way or the other. Let us know. Let us fans know where you stand, so that way we can make our decision if we want to, support a league that is potentially allowing this type of action, or is going to ignore this type of action. Oh, wow. Let's do this really quick. Let's get into some quick random thoughts, and then we'll let you all go, because I know if you're listening to us still at this point, this has been a long episode. I don't know, Dylan, do you have a random thought after this?
Yes. Oh, is it my turn to say it?
Yes.
Well, you asked if I had one, not what it was.
Okay, go for it. What's your random thought, Dylan? Man,
right,
I didn't have to hold your hand through this whole podcast when I'm asking.
I just want you to ask better questions, which is hilarious because I asked a terrible question earlier to Frederik. But yeah, I don't know. It's a wild time, right? If you've already decided you're going to vote for president, you probably just turn off CNN and do something with your family or your friends. Or wear a mask and be safe doing it. Don't let your brain turn to mush right now. It's a super important time. I'm a little bit younger than these two, but think about me, or think about your kids or your future kids or your grandkids, your future grandkids, whatever. Think about whatever young person that you care about when you make these kinds of decisions. Think about the world that you are going to leave them with, and make a good decision. Support not just yourself and what's in your best interest, but what might actually be in the best interest of all of us. And if that means confronting some of your more racist ideas and your learned behaviors, that doesn't mean reaching out to the one black person and asking them to validate your newfound wokeness. That just means recognizing those behaviors and recognizing your bad behaviors and not doing them anymore, and actively working to undo those things. Now, obviously, the race thing is the better one to talk about, because we just spent 15 minutes talking about racial abuse in the USL, but or one event of racial abuse in the USL, but kind of goes for everything. Just be a good person and fight. And I really do mean fight for what is good for everyone and not just for yourself.
Perfect. And for whatever reason, Dylan's calling us old fuddy-duddies or something. Alan, I don't know. Alan, what's your random thought for this episode?
My random thought is the same thing I told my students on Monday to do, is to get offline, put away your cell phones, put away your computer. If you have pets, take them for a walk. Sunday night, I spent outside and did a little bit of reading and just got away from all of this shenanigans we're so reliant on technology right now to communicate with one another, and it's great and it's phenomenal. And I've enjoyed Zoom hangs and not murder mystery dinners, escape rooms and Zoom comedy shows. But sometimes it's nice just to put down our devices and just be outside for a minute. And I know it's hot this week, so maybe wait until the weekend. But just enjoy some time away from a computer screen, because I think our lives are so dominant and by cell phones and computers and social media and stuff. Just take a moment, even if it's grab a beer, grab a nice whiskey, sit outside, and just kind of be away from technology. So do exactly the opposite of Ray right now.
Let this be the last time you use technology.
Oh, sorry, I was distracted.
When you're listening to this podcast, let this be the last thing you do with your phone today, no matter what time it is.
Sorry, I wasn't ignoring you, Alan. I heard everything you said there. I was just trying to be mean. I don't know. Who knows what it was? Hey, you ready for my random thought? Who's ready for my random thought? What do you think it's going to be about, Dylan?
I sent an image in the private chat earlier that would say what it is, but it's probably something about Eric Dyer having a little bit too much care about halftime and needing to go off for a quick little break.
To go drop a deuce there.
Also,
in
40 seconds, and it probably took him like 15 seconds to get in and out. That is
he was quick. That was
That's
impressive.
Disgusting.
That is impressive from Eric Dyer. And couple quick things about Eric Dyer. It wasn't a handball. They need to change the handball rules, because that is ridiculous that they called a handball on him against Newcastle. Impressive that he's able to run back into the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, use the restroom, come back out in, like Dylan said, like 40 seconds. I do have a literature recommendation for you all because of what we've been talking about today. Made me think about it. Let's recommend it, right? How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibrahim Kendi. We're reading this at my work as a common read, and so far I'm about halfway through, and it's really something that I've been very impressed with reading it. It's really taught me a lot, and I'm looking forward to reading the second half of this book to sort of learn more about some of the things that I'm doing, even though I consider myself someone that isn't a racist, that is definitely against racism, still learning some of the things that I do that are part of racist actions and thoughts and things that maybe I'm not thinking about. So definitely recommend it for anyone that hasn't read that. Go ahead and read it. It's a really good, eye-opening book. And I appreciate the author for sharing his, backstory throughout the book so far, and his learning from his things that have happened. It's awesome. So if you haven't read it, read it. Whew. Well, I think we're going to wrap things up. We went a little bit longer than normal, but it was definitely an important topic to talk about there for the last bit of time here on this podcast. I want to thank Frederik Due, our guest, for joining us for this episode. We always appreciate when a player is willing to take some time to join us here on the podcast. And thanks to him for fighting through technical difficulties and trying to make it work, and really sharing some great information about his time with Orange County here, what the season's been like, and just some other interesting facts. As always, Dylan, Alan, thanks to you two for what you do for this podcast. Follow them on social media as Dylan at OCSC_Dylan and Alan at A_Underwood48 on the Twitter machines. And I'm at DJ Ray some more. You can follow the podcast at OCSC_podcast. Or no, at OCSC_SoccerCast. Hey, I'll get it right eventually. Alan, are you ready? I gave you all this time to get ready. Are you ready?
No,
he's not ready.
No.
Thanks to our sponsor,
Roughneck Scarves.
Wasn't he the one that was just saying, get off technology, get off this on his phone this whole time? Well, I'm talking. Go for it, Alan.
Scarf supplier of the MLS, the USL.
All right, Dylan, go.
He's gone. All
team.
Right.
I think that's what they are.
Anyway, thanks for sponsoring.
Seriously,
you go get your scarf if you need a scarf.
At roughneckscarves.com. Also, thanks to our sponsor, FC. Yes. If you're tired of the same old cookie cutter
templates from Nike and Adidas,
for your adult league, for your youth club
just Sunday league, work group.
Yeah, do it.
Punch
Icarus
team.
FC can satisfy those needs for you. They'll help you create, design,
Satisfy
and
those needs.
do
Okay.
your own jersey, and it'll be
At
better
an
than
affordable
everyone
price.
because it'll be unique and it's affordable. Go ahead and check it out at IcarusFC.com. We totally butchered that ad read for that. Thank you, Alan, for that.
Welcome.
Tip of the hat to you, man. This has been the Orange and Black Soccer Cast, and we are out.